shows the state of Minnesota and our numbers. It's something we've always kind of gone over as our meetings progressed and gone over the numbers. And I know it's something everybody has very much enjoyed. At this point, we have 59,185 cases in the state of Minnesota. With that being said, we have 1,121 cases that have been tested. Give me 1 second, you guys. I have a double meeting going on. Hold on just a second. Okay, sorry. Gotta love working from home. Okay, with that being said, there was 1,121,299 tests run in the state of Minnesota. About 1,640 deaths have happened, and as of last night, there was 4 new cases that have passed away. With that all being said, those numbers are very hard to understand, especially because when we watch the news media and we watch everything that's going on out in the public, there is a huge push for the masks and push to keep everybody safe, which I completely agree with. My biggest concern, obviously, on this side as a owner of a company that takes care of people with disabilities and or people that have immune deficiencies and things like that, is that those numbers are a vast difference. When we first started, for every 100 we tested, roughly at least 10 to 15 came back positive because we were only testing those who had signs and symptoms. Now we're finding that as we're testing people, we can test people that have never had a sign or a symptom. They are just everyday person who has decided to go to a free testing site and get tested. And those ones are being added to our numbers. And those people may not have any signs or symptoms and still come back positive. Given what we know about the disease, we do know it is transmittable even if you are not showing signs and symptoms. So that's why we are required to go through this training of preparedness. But just remembering that it's got to do a lot with how people behave. If we are taking care of ourselves and we are taking care of each other and we're doing what is expected, which is not spitting and coughing all over people, not doing dumb things like, you know, going to a bar and sharing one glass with 25 people, for a reasonability, you can understand that, that's going to help stop that spread. Right now, for the CDC portion, they are saying the biggest spread is the 20s. And a lot of it is because people are starting to get ready to go back to school. So they're finding vacations are becoming a big deal. Anywhere that has beaches has been hit probably the hardest. If you look at the numbers for many of the states, beaches that opened back up, Florida, Texas, places like that, Georgia, when those opened back up, they significantly got hit and those numbers went through the roof. I do know as I'm watching, as kids are going back to school and some of our students are going back to school, many places are quarantining them, just no different than the professional players, no different than the people that are going into vacations and things like that. If you go to another state, Hawaii, Alaska, a lot of those places, they're requiring a 14-day quarantine no matter why you're there and no matter what your plans are. So if you're going into a resort, you're not allowed to leave that resort for 14 days just because they don't have the ability to keep up if their island and or their spaces were taken over by COVID. From the understanding we have, there's only about 50 major ICU beds in Hawaii. And they have, 9 islands, I believe it is. So all it would take is somebody to go down there and go into a restaurant and populate the area with COVID and they would be underwater fast. Here in our ICUs, we're seeing about 155 people a day. That means they are either there already and still there, which can happen, or they are new to the ICUs. Those ICUs significantly are being hit down in the cities. We do have a few of our nurses that we are very close with that work at HCMC and some of those hospitals, and those ICUs are the ones that are getting hit the hardest. So remembering, as much as our northern areas, as you look at the map that I'm showing you now, aren't as bad. I mean, you can see I have Anoka County highlighted there in the light green or blue area. And then you just go one up, which is Isani County, and literally it's a significant difference. And so that shows you what the populations are doing. We tell you all the time to be careful, plan ahead, pay attention, but those numbers are only going to go up, especially if you can see my cursor, I hope. These numbers here in this dark blue area, those are highly saturated areas. Lots of apartment buildings, lots of people living in tight quarters. Um, Many of the homeless shelters and stuff like that are overpopulated at this point. So again, as we're talking about our preparedness plan and we're frustrated, at least in some ways, I just remind you as a staff, and if there's a client on here, which is completely okay, we ask you to remember that, you know, if we don't want to look like those numbers and we don't want to have to deal with what that brings, where family members are in hospitals for 3 to 5 weeks, on ICUs, on vents, passing away, um, the only way we can do that is to follow some of these rules. And as I always tell everybody, I don't agree with everything. I'm required to give you the information, and I usually try to give you my opinion as long as it's not going to get me in trouble, reasonably. So, as many of you know, the rules and regulations have changed in making life completely different, not just in the healthcare world, but now all over the country. I'm not going to debate the information with anybody. Again, I'm just here to have to give you the information under the Required Training Act. Once the CARES Act came into place, we ended up with rules and regulations that became part of our everyday life. In doing so, we have been required to do these trainings. So today, we're going to kind of do some of the basics, which sounds really funny. And for some of you, you might have already done them, great, but we're still required to go over them, and everybody will be required to take the test. But we're going to start out with the hand hygiene. So back to me, let me get back on here. It takes me just a second because I have to switch screens, which is always great fun. Work with me. All right, so this one is going to go over hand hygiene, and it's very basic, so it doesn't take very long, but I have to show you the video, so hopefully everybody can see it or at least hear it. If not, turn it up so you can hear it, and we will go forward. Here we go.
Introduction. Every day you encounter a number of harmful germs capable of making you and others in your environment sick. So how do you protect yourself and others from these harmful germs? By following proper infection control practices. Hand hygiene is the single most important infection control measure to prevent the spread of germs. In this course, you will learn when hand hygiene is necessary, as well as the correct procedure for hand washing and the use of alcohol-based hand rubs.
And as I remind everybody, some of this is read to you. I will say hand washing is required of at least 20 seconds. Soap is required to make sure that you get at least the germs and bacteria off. The water should be as warm as tolerable. I don't want you burning yourself, but it does have to be warm. And this includes for clients too. So when you're washing a client's hands because you're helping them, it doesn't mean crank on the cold water. It means turn on warm water, check it, and verify that you're not scalding them, but it is warm, and that you're taking the time to scrub their hands also for 20 seconds. It's not just you that needs to scrub, it's them also. If you're using any kind of hand sanitizer, please make sure it's got 60% alcohol. That is the minimum. Here's the thing with hand sanitizer, and we say this 100 times over and over again. It is not a replacement for hand washing. It is something that you can do to kind of help. So if you touch your face and you need to use hand sanitizer, it makes sense. If you have wiped someone's bottom side, I don't want you going from their bottom side to hand sanitizer to feeding them lunch. And I know it sounds to be so common sense, but you know how many times I have had to have this conversation with people because people just get in a routine. The hardest part is if you're a family member, you make those mistakes without even trying. The state will be knocking on doors this year. That is what they are planning to do. And some of these basic skills are what they're looking for. Nursing homes are right now getting up to a $20,000 fine if the COVID team knocks on their door, walks in, and asks any one of their staff members to please wash their hands properly in front of them, and they don't make the minimum of 20 seconds and get under their nails and all the way to their wrists. So please remember that those fines are not a joke. And as soon as the state funding is coming through, we belong under their rules and regulations, no matter how much we don't agree with them. Avoid touching your face, nose, mouth, and your mask. That is a huge one. I'm guilty. My mask likes to fall down my nose. It likes to slide all over your face. It somehow ends up as a chin guard because you're, talking to somebody. Make sure if you are touching that mask to bring it back up onto your nose, that minimally you're using hand sanitizer. It would be beneficial to go ahead and wash your hands, but minimally use hand sanitizer. I actually have finally gave in and hooked one to my little purse. I did not want to because it's frustrating and I don't want it popping in my car and making a mess. But because everything is so touch sensitive, this is a big deal. All right, moving on.
After taking this course, you should be able to identify situations in which hand hygiene is necessary, demonstrate the correct procedure for hand washing and the use of an alcohol-based hand rub, ABHR. Hand hygiene. You should always perform hand hygiene when you arrive for work and when you leave for the day, before touching your mouth, nose, or eyes, before applying and after removing personal protective equipment, for example, gloves, before and after providing any type of care, after contact with intact skin, after contact with medical equipment or other environmental surfaces that may be contaminated. You must perform hand hygiene, hand washing, or the use of an ABHR after contact with bodily fluids, such as urine or blood, mucous membranes, such as the mouth or nose, and non-intact skin. However, if your hands are visibly dirty or contaminated with blood or other potentially infectious materials, OPIM, you must always wash your hands with soap and water. If a sink is not close by, you may decontaminate your hands with an ABHR, but you must wash them with soap and water as soon as possible. In addition, you must wash your hands before eating, preparing, handling, or serving food, after using the restroom or assisting another person with using the restroom, including changing a baby's diaper, after providing care to a person with infectious diarrhea, including norovirus, salmonella, shigella, and C. difficile. In order to be effective, you must follow the proper procedure when washing your hands. First, check that you have enough soap and disposable towels. Next, turn on the faucet and make sure the water temperature is warm. Keep the water running so you do not contaminate your hands by repeatedly turning the faucet on and off. Stand back from the sink so you do not contaminate your clothing by splashing water or by touching the side of the sink. Wet your hands thoroughly. Apply an appropriate amount of soap as recommended by the manufacturer to your hands. Lather the soap over the top and bottoms of your hands, fingers, and wrists using quick motions. Interlace your fingers to clean between them. Clean your fingernails by rubbing them against the palm of your other hand to force soap under the nails. According to the CDC, You should continue to lather the soap over all surfaces of the hands and fingers for at least 15 to 20 seconds. Per the CDC, either time is acceptable. The primary focus should be on performing hand hygiene at the appropriate time. Your employer's policy may specify a longer time for hand washing, so make sure you are familiar with your employer's specific policy. Rinse your hands well under running water, keeping your fingertips pointed downward. Do not shake the water from your hands. Dry your hands thoroughly with a clean, disposable towel. Drop the towel in a trash can without touching the container. Then use a clean, dry, disposable towel to turn off the faucet. According to the World Health Organization, the entire hand washing process should take 40 to 60 seconds to complete.
And remember, when they say 40 to 60 seconds, again, that's start to finish. I'm not expecting you to spend a full minute with your hands underwater and just scrub, scrub, scrub. That's start to finish, making sure that you're getting all those surfaces that are required.
You can use alcohol-based hand rubs, ABHRs, for the routine decontamination of hands, except in the circumstances in which washing hands with soap and water is required. You cannot use ABHRs if working in a food service setting. As with hand washing, it is important for you to follow the proper procedure when using ABHRs. First, make sure that the product you are using is approved by your organization. Some hand rubs on the market are not alcohol-based and therefore should not be used. Apply the appropriate amount of product as recommended by the manufacturer to the palm of one hand. Then spread the product by rubbing your hands together until your hands are dry. As with hand washing, make sure to cover all surfaces of the hands and fingers, including between the fingers.
Remember now, with alcohol-based hand sanitizers, we're not super picky on it. The ones I remind everybody to pay attention to is if you go to like Bath and Body Works or somewhere like that and they have that smelly good stuff, smells like watermelon, things like that. Many of those are not alcohol-based and they are not at the 60% required. So I won't give you a list of brands because there is about 4,000 billion out there, and also many that make them from the alcohol-based rub that you can use for different pieces of like infection control and stuff. I'm not telling you can't make your own, but again, making sure you're still hitting that 60% alcohol base and making sure that you have the requirement of the cleanliness. So a few places I know we talked with the CDC, they actually do have a homemade recipe for it on the CDC website that they recommend. And even that they're saying isn't 100%, and they would prefer that you use something that is purchased that is made specifically for infection control. So it will say alcohol based, and it will have that percentage on the front of at least 60% alcohol. I know the ones we have at the office are like 85. They do dry your hands out quite a bit. So just remember, washing your hands actually is much safer and easier on your hands than the hand sanitizer, even though hand sanitizer seems to be faster.
Review. Identify the appropriate hand hygiene guidelines. The blocks will turn green when they are in the proper place.
All right, so with that being said, that video is available to you guys and it will be part of this Zoom conference call on our website. So if you need to review, if you know one of the other employees that didn't make it to this call, this whole thing is being recorded because also then the state can review that we actually did our job and went over all these fun, eventful situations. As we go through, I kind of narrate, we pause and do these things. So I'm not going to go heavy into each one at the end until we have to get into the prepared plan. But just remembering, and I say this over and over again, probably 10,000 times to you guys, when it comes to your clientele, when it comes to working, when it comes to any of it, the hardest people to work with are friends and family. And I say it with a whole heart of understanding that the reason that is it's too easy to make mistakes. because you're together constantly. It's too easy to forget that you're working, and it's too easy to make bad decisions. And those things are what makes friends and family the hardest to work for. So when you guys are working together and you guys are doing this stuff, these rules apply even if you live in the same household when you're on the clock. And I can't say that enough. If you're on the clock and I'm signing a paycheck, these rules apply. What you do on your off time, I wish I could say we could help with more of that. I just beg and plead that you guys are being respectful on your off time also and not doing stupid things that's going to cause the on time of clock really to suck. If somebody gets this, it's not just when you're on the clock, it's when you're off the clock also. So for those of you that live together and work together and hang out together and all that fun stuff, I caution you that whatever you do off the clock, again, is going to follow you on the clock. So if you guys are messing around and you're out at the bars and you're partying and doing stupid things and one of you gets COVID, you don't just deal with it for the time that you're on the clock. Now you're going to deal with it permanently until it's cleared. So it makes your on the clock job way harder than just your off the job. All right, infection control. I muted myself on accident. I'm going to share the fun of infection control. All right.
Healthcare-associated infections are a serious issue in healthcare. On any given day, approximately 1 in 25 hospitalized patients has a healthcare-associated infection, and over 750,000 of these infections result in death. Astounding, isn't it? And these numbers don't account for infections acquired in other healthcare settings. Preventing the transmission of infections from one person to another is critical. In this course, you will learn about the basics of infection control. Learning objectives. After taking this course, you should be able to sequence the components in the chain of infection, differentiate between each of the 4 methods of transmission, apply standard and transmission-based precautions. To prevent the spread of infection, you must be familiar with the chain of infection and the steps to break this chain. A specific set of conditions must exist in a specific sequence for an infection to spread.
Oh, sorry. I forget they changed it. So, agent, where it's coming from. The chain begins with an infection agent such as parasites, fungus, and viruses. We're working on the virus side. So making sure you guys remember if someone's sneezing, hacking, coughing, those kind of things, that's kind of our preemptive understanding that there's an agent somewhere. Reservoir, where it's coming from, where it's growing, how it's getting multiplied, humans, animals, and the environment, that's all part of it. So with COVID, one of the big things we talked to you guys about is making sure surfaces are kept clean, doorknobs are kept clean, hands, bodies, things like that. If you're sneezing, you're not touching your face, you're sneezing into your sleeve if possible, into your elbow, things like that. Port of exit, the pathway it's going to leave the agent, so the way it's going to come to the next person, it can be through the nose, mouth, blood, any of those bodily fluids. And this right now, as much as they are saying it's airborne, it is still considered droplet precaution, so meaning that's why we're all wearing the mask. It is airborne though. They're finding very much that, a sneeze, as much as we plan 6 feet, is kind of the max. If somebody really has a good sneeze, me being guilty, like I have a very high pitched, loud sneeze, I can guarantee you probably goes quite a bit further because it's probably a thinner mucus, and it's not on purpose. So of course, always going with your elbow, or like I said, some way, shape, or form. If you use your hands, washing them, sanitizing for sure. If there's anything that gets on your hands, so if you sneeze and you're like looking at your hands and you're like, okay, they're wet, that means you need to wash them, not just sanitize. Sanitize is your second option if you don't have the option to wash. Transmission, how it's going to get there. Is it going to be contact? Are you touching a surface? Is it droplets? Is it sitting there? Is it something that got, freshly, for lack of a better term, spit at you or pushed at you through the air? those are all options and all part of the COVID issue. Port of entry. This is one of the biggest things we've talked about with the CDC is everything is mucus based. So any mucous membranes, so anything that's wet, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, open cuts, they're starting to see that that can be a transmission issue. Wiping someone's bottom side, vaginal openings, all those are mucous membranes. All it takes is to have dirty hands and you're wiping in those areas, and it can transmit. I mean, it sounds very rough. It's not the conversation that most have. It's not what the news is putting out there. But the reality is our job is to be up close and personal with our clients. So what areas of their body are we touching that allow things to enter their body, into their blood system, into their lungs, into their respiratory stuff? And then the host, the person that is got it may not know about it, but is the person that's spreading it. So again, as much as these masks are my nemesis and they drive me insane, and I will never say any different to you guys, I'm just as irritated as you guys. They are there for a reason. And I take pause because I do understand how after 6 months or 5 months of us doing this, why all of a sudden the world has to have a mask on, and it's frustrating when our numbers in Minnesota are down. But as I tell you guys over and over again, and this will be said in every training, they're not looking at us as a company, they're looking at us as a nation. So the government doesn't come in and say, Bees Home Care, here's your rules. Or, all about caring, these are your rules. They come in and say, guess what? Everybody in the state of Minnesota, if you are under this umbrella, which is healthcare, you're a hospital, you're a clinic, you're anything, these are your rules. And they just give them to us across the board. It's kind of a wide open door. So this chain of infection is big with that, because all it takes is for somebody to go into a clinic sick and then bring it home to all of us. And now we are in the same position as that clinic and our home. So again, this is a big deal. The chain of infection is something that really does go very far and can cause things to spread very rapidly.
The following scenario illustrates the chain of infection. Mary wakes up this morning feeling a bit under the weather. Not knowing that she has the rhinovirus, a virus that causes the common cold, she goes to work as usual. She doesn't want to miss her interview with Samantha from HR about the open position she applied for. Before her interview, Mary blows her runny nose one last time, then heads to Samantha's office. Mary enthusiastically shakes Samantha's hand while thanking her for the interview. After the interview, Samantha decides to eat lunch while reviewing the candidates for the new position. Engrossed in the decision ahead of her, Samantha fails to wash her hands before eating. 3 days later, Samantha is sick at home with a sore throat, runny nose, and a fever.
All right. So as much as I want to go through, all their feedback and stuff like that, I mean, that just kind of gives you the scenario. You guys are out with family and friends, maybe in the morning, do your grocery shopping, things like that. Not paying attention, you go home, you quickly throw everything in the fridge, you put it in the cupboard, whatever, off you go to your job. All of those germs, because you did not wash your hands in between any of those steps, are following you now to a client. You get into the client's house. First thing you do, you throw on your face mask, which is great because that's our requirement. Now those germs are sitting on the ear loops and or ties of your face mask. Okay, fine. We're still not really touching our face, but it's on our face mask. Now that surface is considered contaminated. You walk into the kitchen, it's time for Mary's pills. You grab her pill container, you take it, you open it because that is your job, and you dump it into whatever container she's going to now touch and put to her mouth. There you go. That is how easy it is to make a mistake. One thing I have been reminding everybody is when you hit your client's house, please do go in and wash your hands. It's a steering wheel. It is a, oops, sorry, it is a steering wheel. It is a bag of groceries. It's a handle on your fridge at home. It's those small things that you don't think about because our health is good right now. Our staff's health, for the most part, are probably pretty good. I do know that I have a few of you that have your own immune issues, but for the most part, we have some very strong staff, which is amazing. But just because you're strong doesn't mean your client can handle your germs. So making sure that when you guys go into their homes, you're paying attention to what you're touching, how you're touching it, and when you're touching it. Now, one of the complaints I've heard, and I'm going to touch base on this right away, is the opposite. I have a complaint that came in that I have a client that has decided that at her age, she does not care about where she goes. She's not wearing a mask. She's in a wheelchair. And so, for the most part, everywhere she goes, doesn't ask questions. And now the staff is worried to work with her. As a staff member, that is your right. You have the right to notify us that your client is taking unsafe scenarios and putting you at risk. For the most part, we have that under control. Anybody that has made any type of complaint that the clients are taking undue risk, we've been able to make some decisions on either transferring that staff member, working with the client on teaching them. Again, I'm doing the same thing with all of our clients that will log in if possible, and we'll hear the same information. I am expecting my staff to protect my clients, but as always, I expect my clients to protect my staff. And so by any means, I expect that everybody is doing it together. And if it's an unsafe situation, you guys are notifying us. The girls at the office are phenomenal at notifying me. They let me know when things are happening. They let me know if someone has a concern that they can't deal with. You guys remember, I don't have a secretary that answers these phones. Everybody that answers my phones are office managers or above. So when you guys ask questions, you're asking it to a management staff without a question. So when you talk to Victoria, you talk to Misty, you talk to Lori, you talk to Brina, you talk to Shelly, those are your main five. I mean, those girls have been trained by me. I do everything in my power to make sure they have what knowledge I have. I won't fib. I spend roughly 30 to 40 hours a week on COVID still. When this first started, I was roughly at 87 hours when I tracked it a few weeks between all the state and federal meetings we were required to be part of. Now that has died down quite a bit, which is phenomenal for me. But I still wholeheartedly have meetings, have requirements. We have to update our plans. We have to update everything as soon as these rules come out. So as you guys are getting them, please just understand that the more you guys are doing for safety at home on both sides, client and staff, the more I can do on my side to get the state to let us perform our jobs with all the power that we should. You know, we all love our clients and love our jobs, or we wouldn't do it. I mean, this is a very thankless field, and I feel like if I don't spend the time and effort training and teaching and trying to make the company a better place to work, what are we here for? Okay. So on that being said, infection control, it's a very, very basic skill, but it's the easiest one to forget exists. When we talk, our own verbal, even not yelling, not getting upset, you still have sputum that comes out because you're pronunciating with S's and F's and all those fun vowels that produce spit. It is what it is. So just taking that extra precaution, if you think that you've accidentally spit on the countertop before you make lunch, take a wipe, scrub it down. On our website, on the CDC website, there's access to this information everywhere for you guys. And I'll show you on our website when I go through it. There's just access to how to keep things clean, soft surfaces, hard surfaces. Literally every surface has a way to clean it. And most of the time, as long as it's safe, Bleach and water are your best friend. Those two together, as long as you're not doing it on something that's going to bleach out or that's going to get it ruined, and I say this wholeheartedly, those are the things that we're using. Over the counter cleaners, make sure you're reading the information on the back. If you're getting Febreze and thinking you're going to sanitize a couch, you're sorely mistaken. You're making it smell pretty, most likely just giving the moisture for something to grow. It's a soft surface. It can still allow COVID and any other thing infectious wise, C. diff, any of the other fun stuff we deal with on our daily basis to grow. So as much as, yeah, Febreze is great, makes things smell yummy. Make sure we're also paying attention that we're Lysoling, we're doing those basic skills. If your client can't use Lysol because it's an aerosol spray and it's too heavy smelling, or bleach is too much. I have some clients that literally cleaning is just a hell of a deal. I tell you wholeheartedly, let the office know, and then we will figure out a way if the client needs to go outside so that we can still scrub everything that we need to. We're not a cleaning service. So no, we're not going to go through the client's house and wipe walls and do all that fun stuff. But those major surfaces that we're touching, I expect that some way, shape, or form, we're finding a way to at least disinfect as much as we possibly can. So door handles, those high touch surfaces, please, please, please. As much as I know I jump on you guys for not being the cleaning person, for not being the housekeeper, because that's not what you're paid for. Don't pack their stuff up. Don't put it away. At the point of COVID and the pandemic, we do have to take a few little extra steps, which is water and bleach on a rag, wiping handles down, things like that. Things that should be common sense that everybody does. Now is the time that we need to actually pay attention. All right, on to the fun one. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. In the state of Minnesota, so while I get this up, we are required as a requirement to reopen any company that wants to be in business during a pandemic, especially of COVID, has to do this cute COVID-19 preparedness plan. The plan was created reasonably, and I say it by all means, by my management team, myself, and then I did have intersecting staff members kind of come in and help me what makes sense. The hard part of our plan is we are threefold. We are in-home, we are office-based, and then we are live-in staffing. All totally different things, all totally different ways of looking at life, very hard situation. So when we go through these, the plan itself, I'm very honest that we leave a lot of gray area, because if I say you guys are going to wipe every knob down in every room of that house that you're in every time you work, and they come in and there's an emergency, you guys haven't been able to get to wiping it down, and oh my God, Sally's heading to the hospital now, and whatever, I can't do it during that time of my position, all of a sudden we are now in violation of this plan. So the COVID plan will be on our website as a PDF, so you can review it too. I do want, if you guys have questions or feel that there might be something that should change because you're worried that it's said differently, let us know. This is an ever evolving plan. This is the one that we will update through every time we have a new executive order. So when we got the new face mask rules, I had to redo this. There is actually a 58-page document that I had to write on emergency preparedness, which included every type of disaster that we could imagine. That's a whole different training. Guess what? We get to do that one too, but not today. So this plan, like I said, is ever evolving. We're going to go over the basics of it today. And then from there, I expect you guys to take a few minutes and look through it. If I had to read it word for word, to be very honest with you, it would probably take you about a 2.5-hour session of just listening to me read this, which is not going to happen. I love y'all, but I have other things I got to do. So, and I expect that as staff members, we can touch on the basics and you guys can touch up on that and learn from it. It's very understandable and common sense. So, as we go through this, just remember each position has different issues, different things that are going to be different. So, use this as kind of your guide and then take it to that next step of what your job entails. Living with a client is way different than walking into their home. If you're walking into their home, you're going to have different things that you do than if you're waking up out of bed and an hour later starting your job, which is also going to be different than the office staff that are getting out of bed, heading into an office where they have to wear a mask every time they stand up from their desk. You know, they take it off while they're on their computers because they have to be able to do their computer work and breathe. But in the long run, every time they get up from their desk, they have to have a mask on. So just bear with me as we go through it. All right, hand hygiene, we've already talked about, it's required. Administrative controls for social distancing, we're doing our best with that. I remind you guys, you know, if you're not wearing a mask for some reason, you have COPD, you have asthma, you have behavior concerns, you know, with ADHD, that the mask just makes you kind of antsy and it makes you more anxiety ridden. Social distancing is big then. You know, if your client doesn't need you to be in their face, make sure you're not. Do your best to keep that distance so that you guys can be a little more pliable, per se, with the mask situation. Prompt identification of being sick. If you guys pay attention to your time cards, I know, please bear with me. I've been chewing on CareTap about it. We're supposed to have a checkbox that says you've checked for signs and symptoms on yourself and on your client on every shift. That checkbox, I do know, has not always been showing up. So make sure that in some way, shape, or form, even under health notes, that you can say, I've done it. I've checked the COVID symptoms and signs. If somebody has signs or symptoms, we ask at that point to isolate. Stop what you're doing. Now, this has become kind of an issue because we have allergies coming into the season, including myself. We have the typical headaches coming in. So what we're looking at when we say signs and symptoms: chest pain, fever, cough, all those fun body ache things. Your chest is real congested, more than what you normally have. That is kind of one of the prerequisites, as they always say, is more than what you normally have. So we have some of our staff that's like, I run 99.9 as my normal temperature. If I walk in the door and it's 100 degrees outside, I'm gonna be 101, you know, and so per COVID rules, I should leave. The rules also state within your normal temperatures. So paying attention. Don't take your temperature when you're standing in the sun for an hour. Don't take your temperature when you've been sitting in front of the air conditioner for 2 hours, because now you're going to be at 80 some degrees and we get to explain that to you. Use your common sense. I know we offered everybody a thermometer. If you don't have one at your client's house, please let us know. We have the very thin strip ones. They go on your forehead. They can be wiped off with the hand sanitizer and put right back in the envelope. But we have those on purpose. Those are the ones that you guys can literally stick right to your forehead. It takes about 30 seconds reasonably. You look in a mirror and go, okay, I'm within a reasonable temperature that I normally be in. I don't have any feeling of sickness. I don't have chest congestion. I'm not coughing. You know, I'm not doing any of those things more than I already am. So allergies, including myself, if I were trying to work an evening job right now, they would send me home every day because I'm constantly right around 8 o'clock at night. The sun's going down, everything's getting heavy out in the world. It's getting humid, then it gets cool. When it gets cool, out of nowhere, my nose wants to drain down my throat. I'm coughing away, and now it's allergy med time. But I most likely have a fever, and I'm not sick. So use common sense. That's, I mean, I can only say this 150 billion times. Use common sense. Isolate if you are actually sick. If you are at work, you feel like you're going to vomit, you're losing it, everything's not going well, the fever's getting worse, whatever it is, isolate. If you can't leave your client because they are a required client and they have to have a staff, and there's not another staff that can get there like right now, social distancing, making sure they're safe, you're not touching anything else, you're not getting into anything you touch, you have gloves, you have your mask, you're doing everything to keep them safe. I will never, ever, 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 and I say this and it's recorded so you can't tell me I said any different, I will never allow a staff to leave a client alone that is required to have somebody. If you are feeling sick and it cannot be filled, you need to wear a mask, you need to wear gloves, and you need to social distance absolutely as much as possible during the time frame that you are there until either we can get a relief staff in there or until the next staff comes in. If there is a question or concern, please call the office. It is very black and white. I say this wholeheartedly because I get those calls. Well, you said, no, I'm telling you right now, do not ever leave your staff position as a staff member if that client is not allowed to be alone. Kids, adults, I don't care. I don't care if your client says, oh yes, you can leave. If your care plan says you are required to be there, you are to stay, contact the office, and do all of your required coverings. That's why you have PPE. Okay? Making sure that you guys are getting the communication and trainings. Thank you for showing up today. Phenomenal to see everybody on here. I understand it's not convenient. I get that Fridays suck even worse, but this is the day that I could get the most people on here. This is why we're recording this, is so you guys can hit it up when you can. But these are required. The state is not giving us any type of leeway anymore. We have to hit our 8 to 9 hours of training minimum by the end of the year. And all of this is laid out very black and white in the COVID requirement plans. So being on these calls, or at least getting on them afterwards, is part of it. Housekeeping, again, decontamination, disinfecting, those things. We're not there to scrub walls and scrub windows. Obviously, if you're a homemaking client, then yes, we are there for some of those things. But overall, the standard PCA side of it, making sure you're disinfecting those high touch surfaces where you're working, door handles, countertops, things like that. Work with your client. It sounds weird, but some clients have Formica counters, some have granite, some have butcher block, some have, who knows, Corian. There's about 400 different countertops. It sounds stupid, but have that information from your client, because each one of those countertops have different ways to disinfect it. If you have a weird countertop that you're working with and you're like, my client has no clue, I have no clue, and I'm scared that I'm going to mess something up or I'm not going to get it, call the office and we'll do some research. The CDC does have a line for us to reach out and go, hey, this is a surface we've never dealt with. It's not on your guys' stuff. What do you want us to do? And they usually, for the most part, will have an answer for us instantly. If they don't, then we go to the Department of Health. All right. The business plan is established and explained all the policies and procedures. Like I said, we have the emergency disaster plan, which is 58 pages long. The Department of Labor can come in and consult with the Department of Health. They are an authority that we do follow. So making sure you plan adequately. If they do enter the property, they will knock on the door. They will tell you who they are. They will show you and present a full badge. At that point, it is not a requirement that you allow them in the home. It is up to the client, especially if it's the client's home. If the client deems that they do not want them in, which we've had happen, I expect my staff to call my office and let us know this happened, because I will get a not so nice email from the state of Minnesota that says this client did not allow us in their property. That is their right. And the state knows that. And as much as they don't like being told no, and as much as I don't like being told no, that's the right of the client. So if that client says, do not come in my house, you're not going to go through my stuff, you're not going to do X, Y, Z, It is my right to say no. That is okay. Um, the one thing I do remind our clients, and it's something I will talk to them on the next call with, is that if we deny right and access to the basics, it's going to give them pause on why we're not letting them in. It's going to also throw a red flag on your client's services. As much as they can't deny your client services because they've taken the option to say no, I say it with all due respect, there is going to be a small argument between the state and that client, most likely, on why they can't come into the home. Is it an adult protection issue? Is there a safety issue? They are going to question it. So work with your client as best you can to work with the state if they show up. Believe it or not, for the most part, when those assessors or the COVID team comes out to work with us, they, for the most part, are the very calm, cool, collected group. They're just trying to make sure everybody's safe. Usually they only come out is if a COVID case becomes positive within the home care, which means a staff member gave it to a client, we can trace it directly back to that situation, then it becomes a issue for the state under the home care side. If somebody gets it out in public, they get tested, they're positive, they stay away from their client, it never transmits in the company time frame, then it's not a COVID positive case within the company. We do have a few staff that have come back COVID positive. Lord bless us all. Of course, it was caught prior to ever having interactions with clients. So it was, something like not feeling well, did the isolation as required, got tested, and had the test back in 24 hours and had to be off for the next 14 days. So we do very, very, very well on working with the staff. Under the FFCRA leave, which is the new leave that the Department of Labor and Department of Health, there is a specific COVID leave. And again, FFCRA is one of those leaves that say you as a patient slash employee slash client, whatever you might be, have a right to have that time off to get better and not infect others. The one thing I implemented very quickly is if you call me and tell me that you are taking that leave and you do the paperwork and you follow through on it, if I find out that you're running around town and possibly infecting other people, it can be cause for termination and possibly turned into the state as health and welfare endangerment. I don't play games with this. It's not something I want people abusing. I have no problem if you're truly sick and you're home and you actually are not doing well, fine. But if this is going to be a game and I find out, and I know everything, I find it out, I promise you. People tattle, it's great. They don't even know they're tattling. Half of them tattle on themselves. Remember, I pay attention. I might not find it today, I might not find it tomorrow, but if I find it, I do turn it in. It's no different than stealing time on your time card. You're stealing federal dollars that are put aside specifically to pay somebody to stay home. No different than unemployment or any of the other things. That's federal dollars. That is not a joke because I also am on the hook for those dollars. So if you guys steal it, guess what? They're coming back at me if they find out that you guys did it wrong. Okay? No game, no joke. It's black and white. So when you look at FFCRA leaves, make sure you guys are paying attention to what the rules that go with it. And it's on our website. It's very clear. It's been on there for a long time. All right. Next, going through all the fun of what we've already talked about, infection prevention. You guys know what you're doing. Pay attention. Watch. Before you start your shift, make sure you don't have signs and symptoms. Have your mask. Make sure you're working with that client with that mask. Make sure you're washing and sanitizing your mask correctly. You guys all got little cards from us if you received a mask from us. If you did not and you need that information, ask the office, they have it. Those washable masks have to be dealt with appropriately. They have to be washed, they have to be sanitized, and they have to be taken care of appropriately. Don't take off your mask and throw it on a table on face up, so that the outside of the mask is facing up and the inside facing down. And then the next time you do the dumb thing, you take it off, and now the inside of the mask is facing up. And guess what? You're just constantly recycling the same germs. Make sure you guys are putting them where they belong. As we said to most people, those brown paper sacks that you used to use for lunch when we were kids, put them in one of those. Fold it in half so the two clean sides are touching each other, so the interior sides are touching each other. If you have a gator mask, the one that you pull up, so it's around your whole neck, make sure that the inside is the same every single time and put them in a brown paper sack. Now that we're all going into public, this has become a bigger problem, including for myself. We have to have a mask with us everywhere we go. So, clean side to clean side, always keeping your clean side inside. I always keep my mask folded and in the front of my purse because I know as soon as I step out of my truck, I'm going to have to put it on. Great, fine, but at least I'm guaranteed that clean side to clean side when I put it on my face is not full of bacteria, okay? So just pay attention. Sanitizing your skin, proper showering. I'm not going to tell you guys how to shower. Good God, I hope by now you've learned that. But as we've learned over time, hand washing became an issue even after kindergarten. So take a shower. When you're working with people, take a shower. When you go to the store, take a shower. Basically, every night you should be showering unless you're locked up in your house and isolated. I mean, it's common sense. If you're going out to a restaurant and you're having dinner, which I'm not saying don't, because we're all going to lose our mental sanity sitting around for this many hours, make sure you're coming home and you're not climbing into your bed with all the germs that come from it. I can honestly say I've been at restaurants that, they've done amazing jobs at cleaning, but that doesn't mean everybody is. So washing your clothes, making sure that you're not sitting on furniture. If you know that someone's sitting next to you at another table, granted most are social distance, but they're over there hacking and sneezing and coughing and oh my goodness, it's probably allergies or something. Use the common sense. Wash your own hands and make sure you shower when you get home. All right, prompt identification. We've already kind of gone over this. Your PPE is available at the office. If you don't have a reusable mask, we still have them at every single office. If somebody is, say a client is COVID positive, we have the proper masking and gearing and all that fun jazz, the gowns and the gloves and the shields. But it's for a COVID positive patient. If they're not COVID positive, the mask and gloves is okay. If you have any kind of fear and you're kind of like, they might be COVID positive, glasses, cover your eyes. We have some safety glasses at the office that we've handed out for those people that have a client that might have an issue with coughing and sneezing and stuff like that, and they're a little more nervous because they have health conditions themselves. So safety goggles, as long as they cover the sides of the eyes and over the top, that is our biggest thing. So when you guys see people at stores right now, you're seeing these basically half round clear mask that goes around, but if you look at the top, it's got a foam bridge on it. It's not just because they're annoying and they have to be on your head. The foam bridge is there just like your mask is to catch anything before it comes down into your eyes, nose, and mouth. So if you have a concern, and we've had a few that have had to call and say, all right, well, we have a concern, let us know. Let us get you the proper stuff. Those things are required. Wearing scrubs or a form of safe, non-absorbent material, we just ask. I mean, overall, I would love to say, everybody wear a pair of scrubs, but that's not reality. I mean, by no means is it reality for everybody to have scrubs on every day of their life, unless you work in a hospital and required to. And many of our clients don't look like they have disabilities, so they don't want their staff walking in the house as a labeled helper. This is a friend, this is whatever, because that's not, they're still in the normal population. They are the person that physically, mentally, emotionally, for the most part, could probably do it completely on their own, but has those little quirks that they need some help with, and that's okay. So respect their wishes, but try very hard to know what fabrics you're wearing. Cotton is one of those that is very breathable, but again, will absorb things. So when you go home, if your client isn't feeling good or if they're sneezing and stuff like that, again, those are the clothing items that we're worried about because they do absorb. Neoprene, hard to breathe through, really sticky, likes to touch you a lot, great fun. But those ones don't usually let everything come through. They're the ones that when you give someone a shower, even if you get wet, you're not soaking wet for the next 5 hours. Usually it dries within a short period of time. The office does have access to scrubs. We have offered those to everybody. I'm unsure what sizes are left. I won't lie to you. But if we need to get more because a client is not doing very well, or we know that there's a COVID positive case and those staff do need them, please don't hesitate to ask. We've handed out quite a few pairs. So we do ask that you guys pay attention and let us know if that's something that you need. If you live with your client, to be very honest, I'm not going to hand you a pair of scrubs because you're not going to wear them 24/7. You live with them, you need to be taking the proper safety precautions. On our website, we do have access to exactly what the expectations are if you live with your client and how to care for that person. Symptomatic staff, as we've talked about already, please making sure that you're not leaving a client in an unsafe situation, but you're taking care of yourself. Make sure as soon as you're not feeling well, you're handling it appropriately. Need be quarantine and talk to your doctor right away. Making sure you take those asymptomatic steps. If you are feeling nothing and then all of a sudden it shows up out of nowhere, where am I at? What do I need to do? Why do I feel like this? Those questions are going to give you a lot of answers. I understand we beg and plead you guys all year long, every year prior to this, that if you got a sniffle, please go to work. You know, these clients rely on you. On the other hand of it, if you have a sniffle and now you have some chest pain and now you have really bad congestion, it's a very fast and rapid onset, then we need to start looking at it just a touch bit differently. When it's not a pandemic, some of those things we can let go as allergies and things like that. But if it's a very rapid onset and all of that shows up at once, then we need to pay attention. During that time, again, if you're with a client and you have to be with them, social distancing, wearing your proper PPE, making sure you guys are doing what you need to do. Administrative controls, just remember, we are not an open to the public office. Our offices are open to our staff as needed and open to our clients as needed. The Cambridge office, actually, I have asked them to lock their doors because they have so many people that like to just stop in and try and kind of talk and hang out and say hi. We love seeing you guys. Please never, never, never take it as us not wanting to see you guys. But due to the CDC requirements, those doors, when they are unlocked, put all the staff in those offices, including you guys, at risk of somebody entering those offices that really had no reason to be there, may come COVID positive and never tell us. And now we have an outbreak within these home care that we have no clue where it came from because there's really not a source that we can put down. So just know that if you guys need to go to the office for any reason, call, plan ahead, let them know you're coming so everybody's ready, have your mask, those kind of things. Guilty as charged. I'm very honest. I have my own ADHD and asthma and all those fun things, and wearing a mask can make me absolutely crazy. When I'm out in public, I do wear them as required, and I do my best. But again, when I'm in my home office or even at the main office there, and I'm in my 6x6 cell, that's mine, I don't have a mask on, and I don't want to have to go out to the door because Jimmy decided that he just wants to say hi. At this point, we need to stop that. And then hopefully, and God help us all, we are soon to be able to give everybody a bunch of hugs and kisses and love. Man, I miss hugging you guys. Housekeeping, I'm not going to go through it again. Just make sure you guys are doing it. Your houses, this client houses, all the surfaces. Again, follow the regulations. Make sure you guys know them. One of the biggest ones is electronics. Oh my goodness, please wipe down the remotes, wipe down cell phones, keyboards, all those dumb things. Our clients right now all use tablets and keyboards because they're stuck at home. If you work with any type of kids, a lot of them have those damn video game controllers. Clean them. It sounds stupid and petty, but clean them. The first thing that happens with kids is they're sneezing and they go right back to their game. So they're going to go hachoo into their hand and touch that remote, or hachoo and grab the remote to change the video. I don't care what age they are, but kids are probably the worst. I mean, they're all little germ factories anyways. We love them all, but that's what they are. They're cute, but man, they spread germs. So remember, wipe things down. Make sure you're paying attention. Don't dip a controller into a bath of water. Use common sense. Don't take someone's cell phone, and I say this because it happened, and dip it into a vat of bleach. Wipe the screen, wipe the edges, get a towel. It doesn't mean soak it. I'm not replacing your cell phone because you're dumb. Common sense will outweigh it, and I say this wholeheartedly, and I don't even care if the state gets mad at me. I am not replacing electronics because people cannot use common sense. I'm not your mom. I am a company owner, and I am telling you very wholeheartedly, common sense. Wipe things down with the proper amount of fluids so that it's done correctly, because we don't want to have issues. Screens of TVs. Don't grab a bleach wipe and scrub a screen. More than likely, you're gonna fry the screen. Now, there is ways to clean screens, and we need to. So look at the manufacturer. Google. Oh my gosh, Google is your friend. Pull up Google. We have a Vizio TV. Please give me how to clean it or disinfect it, and it will. Surprisingly, it'll even probably give you a YouTube video. If you can't do it by just listening or reading it, you'll get a video. Please use common sense. All right. Staying in specific rooms, don't make yourself available to the whole house. Your client might live in a 5-bedroom house. Use the rooms that the client's using. Don't wander. Don't go from room to room. If there is, for some god awful reason, children that are in the house that you usually don't have to do anything for, but you folded a little laundry and a pair of their jeans came out, fine. Put it by their door. Don't enter their room. Why? Because if you come back COVID positive, I have to know what rooms you were in their house, who you've had interactions with, what interactions you had, and why. So all those questions have to be answered. So if you tell me that your client is mom J and she's got kid X, Y, and Z, and I find out that X, Y, and Z are not on services, but you have done all their laundry, you've made their beds, you've done all this stuff, not only am I going to have to deal with your COVID issues, you're probably going to end up getting wrote up, because now you're taking care of somebody else that is not your client on the clock. What you do on your personal time, again, I can't stop you. That is your right. But on my time, the client you work with is the client you care for. Follow your care plans, only be in the spaces that you have to be in, and make sure you're only doing the things that you're allowed to do. The hardest thing that we deal with on a daily basis, especially with COVID now, is that people have been doing things they are not supposed to be doing, which have gone with a blind eye. And now I get a phone call that says, okay, X has COVID. I went into YZ's room to do X's whatever because X was mad. And now I have a whole family that has to be quarantined into their house because you didn't follow the rules of the home care. Okay? So follow the rules, please. I can't say it enough. I give a lot of leeway, but please respect that during this time, especially bathrooms. bedrooms, non-communal areas are huge. Making sure that if your client is sick, doesn't mean you don't work. We still have to work. We just have to give you the proper PPE. That person, when they use the bathroom, is also being told, okay, we need the Lysol. We need to wipe down the counters. We are going to take care of those high touch surfaces so that you're not spreading it to the rest of your family. On this prepared plan, as you guys go through it, like I said, I'm not going through each and every single piece of it because this is like a 9-page document. Sorry, we cut it down. It tells you hard surfaces. You can see all the hard surfaces, what to do with them. Soft surfaces, how to handle them. My favorite phone call I've gotten lately is, we don't have gloves in the house because we don't do any kind of care. Okay, so get a set of the reusable gloves if you need to. I'm not saying you have to. I know on here it says all over the place that you should wear gloves. One, it's to protect your skin a little bit. You're using quite a bit of bleach and stuff to wipe things down. But two, gloves are made so that you can keep surfaces clean. Reasonably, again, this is where that 3-part breakdown gets harder. If you live in the house, you're already touching every surface. So I'm not going to hand you a box of gloves because now you have to wipe down the kitchen counters. That doesn't make any sense, because when you're off the clock, you're not going to remember, or you're just not going to do it. So use common sense. The reusable grandma gloves, as I always call them, the real cute ones that go like up your elbow for short people like me, it goes all the way to my armpits, and you can use those as long as they're kept clean. So when you're working with bleach and stuff like that, they are bleached clean and they're being hung up in a safe area so that people aren't using them for taking out the trash, taking out a dirty diaper, whatever it might be. You're using those gloves appropriately, so they are for high touch surfaces only. Again, it goes over electronics, giving you kind of the breakdown on how to wipe some of it down. Everything still is going to remind you, check the manufacturers. Some things cannot have fluids. It will ruin them. So then we have to look at what's a dry spray, what's a dry wipe, what are some of the options we have. And again, the CDC has even a bigger list than this. If I posted everything, you guys would never find anything. Laundry, another one that they go through pretty heavily, just making sure that you're washing them by manufacturer's tags to make sure they're getting disinfected and all that fun jazz. Please don't use the excuse I have to put it in super hot water because that's how it kills COVID. And I'm sorry, I shrunk everything you own now. And well, it sucks to suck. You should probably just lose weight. I've heard that comment, so I'm saying it out loud. It doesn't count. And if you shrink everything in someone's house, I'm going to write you up for it. Pay attention. There is clothing options for washing them, so look at them. All the clothes have tags on them. If it says it can only be washed in cold, then pay attention to what steps you need to do. If you're following how the manufacturer says to wash it, 90% of the time, it's going to be disinfected appropriately. It's because of the fabric that you're using. Hand hygiene, already went through it, not going through it again, just reminding you it's part of the COVID plan. It is your job to make sure you're following those rules. Other considerations, we've talked quite a bit about this. When caring for an ill person, make sure you're wearing your PPE, make sure you're using as much stuff that can be thrown away. If you know they're COVID positive, the recommendation is disposable stuff, including silverware and all that. Not everybody can afford to throw everything away, which we understand that also. So if they are COVID positive, making sure we're following, hard surface, soft surface, including when it comes to dishes. Bleach can be used and is safe for dishes for sanitizing as long as it's done correctly. So make sure you guys are reading those rules and regulations. It is posted. Communication, don't forget to communicate. That is huge. I say this 100 times over and I'll say it 100 times over again. Communicate with us, communicate with your families and with the staff and clients on all sides. So do I want you breaking HIPAA? Absolutely not. But if somebody is COVID positive in the state of Minnesota, as much as you can't say their name, legally, we have to know they have it and we have to follow the rules that go with it. So when we turn it in to the Department of Health, there's an actual COVID team that we have to turn all that information into. We turn in who has it, what family members have been around, what staff has been around, what staff family members have been around that staff person. So we're going to collect a significant list of information from you guys. So just know that obviously, as much as I don't want you breaking HIPAA going home, Jimmy has COVID, oh my God, guess what? Oh my God, we're all going to die. Common sense again, let's have that conversation. Yes, you have a right. Okay, we have a possible positive case in one of my client homes. We need to pay attention. If no one's feeling, any signs or symptoms, great, but please make sure you guys are being cautious. Again, don't break HIPAA. Your family members should not know who you're working with unless for some reason you guys are all family, whatever, guilty as charged. Everybody knows everybody. We live in a fishbowl because we live up north. But the reality is still you have the same requirements. HIPAA is still a big deal. So making sure you guys are respectful. Making sure at every shift you guys are checking that your client is okay, feeling okay, that you're not going into a house that's COVID positive, you're feeling okay, you're not taking in anything that shouldn't be. Making sure you guys are on the Zoom meetings as much as possible. You are required to at least listen to them later on and take those tests. They're super easy tests, you guys. It's like 6 questions, common sense, usually 1 or 2 things that you're not going to find on the internet because I have to prove that I did something more than just give you some paperwork. Social distancing's on here again, communication training, all those, the appendix of where all that information comes from. The YouTube videos, like I said, it's amazing. I've learned more about social media and all the craziness that's out there. So you guys, just make sure you guys are looking. If you have a question, you're asking. Because in the long run, if you don't ask a question, you're not going to get an answer. All right, back to me. Woohoo! Are you tired of hearing me talk? I am. All right, kind of finishing up here. These 3 topics, as we've gone over, are kind of our huge ones this time. The COVID preparedness plan is something that at any point can change. So remember, on our website, you guys need to, every once in a while, I'm not saying daily, but reasonably every once in a while, get onto the website and check it out. I am going to share my screen. What the website is going to be look like. I said that completely backwards. What the website looks like and how I expect you guys to be doing on these. These calls take just a touch bit longer to get onto our website because they are a significant amount of time. So as I work with the website company that puts it all out there, it might take a day or 2, but reasonably the test is usually already out there, so you guys have it. All right, sharing my screen. So as you can see on our website here, this is our home screen. My cute little bumblebee that says COVID sucks because I'm just so fed up, I'm not gonna lie. My update on this main screen, you'll notice the dates on them. I don't update this a ton all the time, just because in the long run, unless it's something major at this point, we could update this every day and it's not gonna be correct. And I know that sounds terrible to say it that way, but by the time I sit down, update this at the end of the day, by 8 o'clock at night, the news media has announced something new that we weren't told, or we were told something that we're not allowed to put out there until the media does it. So I update this when it comes to those massive changes like this new Executive Order 2081, which is masks have to be worn pretty much at all times. So then I update that. On our website, if you look at the top, super simple, it lays it very cleanly out. Employees, so which is everybody on here, when you click on there, it's going to give you the option. Here are all those posters, all the information that we talked about today. Testing and training. This is going to give you options for stuff that isn't something I'm going over right now. So there's another set of options under here that allows you to go out and watch more about COVID-19 that maybe I'm not going to have time to go through with you guys, but it's another option. Also on here, it's going to give you the hand washing. It's going to give you the infection control. There's more videos available than I can go over with you guys. So all you have to do is click on this website, literally, and it's going to take you over, and then you go through their videos. It's Relias. It's a company that we use often for videos. They can give you so much information. If you do their videos and you get the little certificate, so some of them are real good about having a certificate, take a screenshot, download the certificate, whatever, get that over to the office so we can give you credit for it, and also start getting people some funding. Hopefully we can get people paid for these. That's our goal. We're fighting right now with the state on every turn to get the essential workers the extra money. I cannot say it enough. It frustrates the hell out of me that they're getting an extra $600 being begged to stay home and they're not doing it. You see them on vacation, you see them traveling, you see them camping, you see all these things. And then I have police officers, I have nurses, I have doctors, I have all of you guys that are on our staff that love our clients, that go to work every single day. And I can't get the state to give us an extra penny. I can't get them to step up. That cute PPP loan that they put out, yeah, we got part of it. That's gone. That was that hazard pay. And as you can see, our hands are tied again because the state just cannot step up for the essential workers. It is overly frustrating, believe you and me, when I sit in these meetings, as much as I annoy you guys, it is my job to piss off as many state people as I can until I can get you guys what I think you deserve. And I will do that until the day I am buried 6 feet under the ground on the brown side. So I tell you all wholeheartedly, I'm fighting. If we get anything, you guys will be the first to know it. I sit as much as I can to fight with these people to make sure you guys are taken care of. All right, back to the website. On there, you'll see these Zoom meetings. I did this separately on purpose. There is one for the clients, so theirs will also be recorded with no testing because obviously it's not a requirement, but most clients really do enjoy knowing what the hell is going on, what you guys are being required to know, why you guys are taking an hour and a half out of your day on a Friday once a month to sit here and listen to me bitch. Thank you. Staff. There's a staff Zoom and test. So as you can see, this one already has its test up here. Short answers, you guys. I'm not looking for a novel. I just need short answers. Make sure your name is your full name. If on there, there's probably 25 spaces. So please fill it out. Once you are done doing everything, you've checked all the cute boxes, you get it, you do this stupid little spam protection so Brina doesn't get 10,000 emails at the office. When you hit send, it will automatically go to Brina. She has a checklist of everybody that needs to have the training. Make sure you guys understand, if you check this box, you're saying you took the test, not your friend. You didn't take it for Jimmy, you didn't take it for Sally. When you check the box, it's just saying you did this. It gives me a way to say, nope, see, look, their name, their email address, their answers, they checked the box that at every shift they're checking for COVID. They did the anti-spam thing. They checked the box saying they did it themselves. I swear I took the test myself, blah, 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 and they hit send, okay? When we look at these, I don't want to spend 25 hours having to check tests. If something's wrong, we will touch base with you. That's why we need your email address. So if you answer something wrong, we're not going to write you up and you're not in trouble, but we are going to call or email or whatever we need to do to make sure that you have the proper information. Again, everything is on our website, so use it. The website is your friend. I promise you it is your friend. All right, with that being said, I'm going to stop screen sharing and we're coming kind of to the end. Woohoo! Like I said, I'm going to try and keep it short. These 3 topics within the Zoom requirements, the preparedness plan, everything is on the website. We ask that you guys follow the rules and regulations. Remember, this is not optional, it is a requirement. Please respect and understand that at no time is it our choice to make these decisions. So yelling at Brina, yelling at any of my management staff, or even myself, because you have to follow some rules that seem really ridiculous, I didn't make them. I've made a lot of ridiculous rules in my life because people do stupid things. These rules are not my option. They're regulated, they're given to us. The health department is very strict on these rules. They are not allowing a whole lot of leeway. The little bit of gray I gave on our preparedness plan is just for the reasons of we have so many staff doing so many different things. But out of respect, I ask you wholeheartedly to remember it's not just you that you guys are protecting. You're protecting your clients, your family members, their family members, and most of all, you're protecting your job. Our job matters. This is the first time in 13 years I've owned the company that I can honestly say the government finally said PCAs matter. I want to keep that going. I want you guys to always stay essential. I want them to understand that we're not a joke. We're not a high-priced babysitting service. We're not just doing one-on-one because we're lazy and don't want to have the nursing home job. Our clients have a right to stay home, have a right to be part of our community, have a right to be a normal, everyday person, no matter the disability. But to keep that and to keep our lives going and allowing us to fight the good fight, we have to follow these rules. So with all that said, I send you my wholehearted thank you. Thank you for sticking this out with COVID. Thank you for being at your job every day. Thank you for always being amazing and being part of this phenomenal family we have built over 13 years. I can't say enough that it's not me, it's you guys. It's not me. I'm just here now. It's all you guys that really do make this company what it is. I'm just here to guide the ship and make sure we don't sink. But every one of you are the ones that, can get the credit. And I send you my love and my thank you as the owner of something I never thought would be this size. Please just keep it going. And as we do this, we just move forward and get better. All we can do is be stronger and prove that we are essential and that our clients matter and that we can do our job, that we're not the negative press that we see out there. That negative press is because somebody didn't do their job or a company doesn't care. We care. We're a family. It is all about love and respect, okay? So just know, when I see you on Friday, I send you all my love. And soon, we will have one hell of a party. If it's Christmas, it's Christmas. If it's next year, it's next year. I don't care. We will do something because I can't give you guys all hugs and kisses right now. I will at some point be able to hug everybody and say thank you. So I thank you all. It has been exactly an hour and a half. Woohoo! We're done a half hour early. Please go and be well, and I will see you in 1 month. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.